Hey everyone, welcome to Infill Lot Recon. My name is Mike Marshall with WholesaleLandDepot.com. For more than a decade, I've been helping investors learn how to avoid the landmines and capitalize on the opportunities that exist with vacant infill lots. If you are or have a goal of becoming an infill lot investor, you're in the right place. So today I want to talk about another due diligence item that you'll want to look into. Good news is that you can really verify this problem within a few seconds. There's an easy place to look. You can tell if you have an issue or not, and so we'll tell you a little bit about that. And like always, I want to leave you with a few takeaways that you can leave us to help you with your due diligence process. And so you need to be able to clear this hurdle just like all the others. And so with that, here's the first takeaway. Number one, as the phrase implies, a hillside lot is a lot is impacted significantly by topography. So what does that really mean, and what is actually significant? Well, topography obviously is hillside, but what's significant or not? And that really is dependent on the specific site, the specific project, and really what I'm getting down to is the costs that are actually involved with that and the time that's actually involved with that. Point number two is that you can likely build on most hillside lots, but again, what is it going to cost? What are your grading costs? What are your civil engineer costs? These are all things that'll have to be taken on by the builder. Again, not so much your concern, but it is something that you want to consider that'll kind of paint the overall picture, or help paint the overall picture as to what's going on your specific property. There's plenty of lots out there that are hillside lots that just, they can be done technically, physically. You can grade on that lot, you can create building pads all day long, but the problem is that the costs associated with doing that far exceed the actual return that you're going to get on the deal, and so ultimately it just doesn't pencil, and so those lots end up sitting for quite a long time. And those tend to be in older subdivisions. You won't see those in newer subdivisions, but you may see them in older subdivisions. They're sitting there on these big old hillsides sitting on them, and they're just too impacted to actually be any viability to them. So again, you can most likely build on these hillside lots, but really what's the cost associated to it? Point number three, be aware of slope easements that restrict building. We talked about this in the last episode, but basically, these kind of restrictions should show up on the tract map notes itself. So again, as a refresher, the tract map is the subdivision map for your particular property, and on that face of the subdivision map, there'll be notes. And on the notes section, it will or will not actually refer to your lot. Hopefully, you're kind of hoping that it doesn't refer to your lot in any way, but the notes may refer to your lot talking about some sort of slope easement or restricted use area or something like that has to do with the existing hillside on there. And, you have to really look into those restrictions. It may just say you can't build on the sloped portions of the lot. It may actually restrict the whole lot from being built on. Again, it's really much a case-by-case situation that you just want to be aware of. Point number four is that some jurisdictions have what's called protected ridge lines. And basically the idea is that in some communities or areas that have a lot of hillsides, or they're sitting inside valleys and stuff like that, they've identified specific ridge lines as protected. And the reason they want to do that is they want to protect the view shed from neighboring property owners, or they want to protect the view shed from across the other end of the valley. For whatever the reason is, basically the jurisdiction has found that there's some sort of aesthetic value that's attached to those ridge lines, and in order to develop or build within those areas, it usually will take some sort of higher level of approval, maybe from a planning commission or a city council or something like that. And all that translates into extra time and money for your buyer builder. If they have to deal with that, that may turn some buyers off. They don't want to deal with it. They want to really go and look for simple, flat parcels that can build on really quickly. And who can blame them, really? Nobody really wants to deal with those issues, even though there's a pathway to get approval, there's a process to go through, but most people just don't want to deal with the headache. And so you might get a lot of buyers that are just going to turn and look the other way when they see this whole notion of dealing with protected ridge lines. To give you an idea, a protected ridge line just doesn't say that you can't build on the ridgeline itself. It's saying that you can't build within a buffer zone. So one jurisdiction I've seen, the example is that you can't build within 100 feet vertical and 100 feet horizontal of the actual ridgeline itself. And so when you start looking at that, the horizontal one is kind of easy to understand, but the 100 feet vertical is a tough one sometimes, and that could actually make it that, doing anything on the parcel requires this extra type of approval. So again, nothing that happen. It doesn't happen in all jurisdictions, or not even most, but just be aware of it. And the thing that you'll want to do, and this is the point number 5, is that you want to use the local jurisdiction's GIS to view the topo lines and the actual protected ridge lines if possible. Again, just be aware that the layers that you find on those GIS applications, they really do help you figure out what's actually applying to your property specifically. So you want to be aware of what's going on with that. Last one is that you may want to save yourself all the headache in the world and just not buy hillside lots at all. And I couldn't blame you. If you just want to if you have a lot of deals coming through and you're just kind of quickly reviewing stuff, it makes a lot of sense. If you see like a lot that's significantly impacted by a hillside, it takes some extra review, talking to a civil engineer, all those other kinds of things. If you're just trying to just flip these lots as fast as possible, it does make sense to kind of pass on those ones, or at least maybe set them over to like a side pile, like a opportunity B, like your B opportunities instead of your A opportunities. Let them sit over there for a while. They probably haven't moved for a while because of the hillside issue. And so if you are in the need of a deal and you want to go and look at your B list, then you'll find these kind of properties. That might be something you want to be able to deal with. Pro tip number 2, pro tip number 1, work in jurisdictions with good GIS capability. And that's kind of talking about that a minute ago, but that's just an overall tip no matter what you're doing, wherever you're looking. If you look at some of these old jurisdictions, old cities and counties that don't have really good online access to documentation, that's just going to help, it's going to hurt you rather in doing your investment. It's going to be harder to find information, harder to deal with properties, especially if you're trying to deal with them from out of state or what have you. So again, I can't reiterate this enough. Really try to find jurisdictions that have good GIS or online capability to documentation. And that is about it, I think. Like I said, you may just want to not deal with hillside lots. It makes a lot of sense, but there's something to consider as you're looking at these things, looking at your due diligence process. There are too many other opportunities out there, and that's just my opinion. One caveat though is that if only a portion of the lot is impacted by hillside and there's not an obvious like flat pad area, then it may be worth digging into more. So if you see half of the lot is impacted by hillside but the other part is actually flat, then that might actually be something that you can deal with, because then in that sense you wouldn't even be touching the rear portion, let's say, that has the hillside on it. You're only dealing with that flat pad area. That might be something that I would look at a little bit more closely. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. All right, so that'll do it for today's episode of Infill Lot Recon. Check out the next episode where we'll talk more about infill lot due diligence that'll help you avoid the landmines and take advantage of the opportunities found in infill lot investing. If you have any comments or questions, or if you're interested in my consulting services, go ahead and email me at info@wholesalelanddepot.com. As always, you'll find us on YouTube or on wholesalelanddepot.com. Thanks. See you next time.